The author of this fanfiction name is Fanatic06. He works on fanfiction.net and the link is in the description to the stories.
Chapter 13, The Waterflowers of Cerulean City. The group had spent the last 2 days training their Pokemon. Ash and Serena had been training especially hard since they knew that Cerulean City would be home to Ash's second gym battle and another battle chateau for Serena to compete at. After seeing the message that Gary left for Ash, he had a new sense of determination. It was almost like Ash had reverted back to his old self of just wanting to beat Gary. That was, at least, until Serena talked some sense back into him and told him it wasn't just about being better than his rival. Ash still secretly hoped he would run into Gary soon. Then he would challenge him to a battle and beat him. Hey, look! Cerulean City is in sight! Ash exclaimed happily once he could see the tall buildings. I can't wait until I can compete for my second gym battle. Pikachu! Pikachu said from Ash's shoulder with determination. And I can have a second chance at the battle chateau. Serena finished with an equal amount of determination. Hey guys! I was thinking. Why don't we just skip the city altogether? Misty suggested. Ash, Serena, and Brock turned towards her to give her a questioning look. Why would we want to do that? Ash asked. Oh, I don't know. I hear Vermilion City is really nice, though. It's a lot better than this old city, Misty said. Sounds great. We can go there after we come through the city, Ash replied. I mean, why waste time here? Vermilion City has great beaches, sparkling water, and it even has a gym, Misty almost pleaded. She was hoping by mentioning a gym it would encourage the group more. I remember Hennessy saying there wasn't a battle chateau there when we talked to him in Viridian City, but there is one here, Serena reminded. Well, no. There isn't a battle chateau there, but can we please just go to Vermilion Tea, instead? Misty pleaded again. Misty. It sounds like you are avoiding Cerulean City. Do you have some bad experience with this place? Brock asked curiously. Well, I just really want to go to Vermilion City, Misty said while rubbing the back of her head. All right. Let's go. Ash exclaimed. Oh. You mean it? Misty asked hopefully as she clasped her hands together. To Cerulean City. Ash finished. Misty let out a huge groan. It's been a while since I've been to a big city. Look at all of the shops, Serena commented as she looked at the various displays from the store windows. So where do you think we should head off to first? Ash asked the group as they walked along the busy streets of Cerulean City. Actually, there are some things I have to take care of for a bit, so count me out, Brock spoke up. What kind of things? Ash asked curiously. Heh heh. Never mind that. It's just something good. Plus, we're low on supplies, and I need to stock up, Brock said nervously, trying to think of an excuse. Is it a date? Ash smirked. Oh, look at the time. Bye guys. Brock said hurriedly and sped off. Well. Anyway, where do you think we should go, Misty? Misty. Ash inquired to find out she wasn't with the group anymore, either. That's weird. She was here just a second ago. Where did she go to? Serena wondered. Who knows? We'll find her, or she'll definitely find us later. So I guess that leaves only you, Serena. Where do you want to go? Ash asked. How about we go to the Cerulean Gym first? I'm still kind of nervous about participating in the battle chateau again. Seeing you get your second badge might boost my confidence some, Serena replied. Thanks for the encouragement about me getting a badge, Ash said gratefully. Then he added, but don't forget, you have gotten a lot stronger. I have no doubt you can win the tournament this time. I promise I will be rooting for you. Serena thought about what Ash had said for a second. It was true she had gotten more Pokemon and had trained her Pokemon very hard, but those trainers were still really strong at the chateau. She remembered Hennessy telling her that gym leaders sometimes participated. What if she faced a gym leader? Could she win? Earth to Serena, Ash called while waving a hand in front of her face, causing Serena to snap out of her thoughts. Oh, right. Thank you, Ash. You're right. I can win, she said. No problem, Ash said. He then turned to Pikachu. Ready to go get our second badge, buddy? Pikapi. It responded. This is the gym. Ash exclaimed in shock. That's what the guy who we asked for directions said, Serena replied with an equal amount of amazement. Pikachu added, also in awe. Ash, Serena, and Pikachu were now standing in front of the Cerulean City gym. It didn't look like a gym at all, however. It looked more like a giant aquarium or some type of large event center. It was in the shape of a dome with pink and yellow stripes coloring the roof and had large dugong painting on top of the structure for design. If it wasn't for the words Cerulean Gym on the structure, it could easily be mistaken for something else. Well, we might as well go in, Ash said as they began to walk through the entrance. They certainly weren't expecting the place to be so crowded. There was a long line that led up to what seemed like a ticket booth. Surely there aren't that many people here to challenge the gym leader all at once, Ash said in shock. This place is nuts. I wonder if it is always like this, Serena wondered to herself. Do you think we should go on to the battle chateau and come back later when the line isn't so long? Ash asked Serena. No. That's okay since we are already here. By the time we get all the way to the battle chateau, it would be time for us to be at the front of the line anyway, Serena replied. Yeah. Good point, Ash agreed. After waiting in line for 25 minutes, Ash, Serena, and Pikachu were finally at the front of the line where they were met by an usher. Hello. I'd like to request a battle with the gym leader of Cerulean City, Ash told him. The usher looked at him strangely. There aren't any gym battles going on right now. Everyone lined up has come to see the Sensational Sisters perform, the usher replied. Sensational Sisters? This is the Cerulean Gym, isn't it? Ash asked in confusion. It is, but it also doubles as our underwater theater for the shows performed here, said the usher. Oh, Ash said in a slightly disappointed tone. I can get you two a ticket if you came to see the Sensational Sisters if you like, but if you want to have a gym match, it will have to wait, the usher said apologetically. We might as well see the show, Ash. At least then we might be able to talk to someone about when the gym leader is available, Serena reasoned. All right, Ash answered Serena before turning back to the usher. Do I need to pay for a ticket for Pikachu? No sir. Your Pikachu can get in for free, the usher replied. In that case, 2 tickets to the Sensational Sisters, please, Ash requested. Once the usher happily gave the tickets to Ash and Serena, they began to make their way to the central stadium where they heard the show was taking place. When they entered, the place was already packed. It was difficult, but Ash and Serena finally found 2 adjacent empty seats so they could still sit next to each other. As soon as they sat down, the lights dimmed. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the stars of our show. The sensational Cerulean City Synchronized Swimming Sisters. A voice announced over an intercom. As the crowd roared in excitement, Ash, Serena, and Pikachu looked up and saw 3 teenage girls whom Ash assumed were the Sensational Sisters on top of a very high diving board. They gave a wave to the audience and dove the long way down into the water very gracefully. Once they hit the water, they began to do various underwater tricks in perfect sync. Ash thought they were pretty good, but this wasn't his thing so he was little bored. Serena and Pikachu, on the other hand, were enamored by the grace and beauty of the sensational sisters. Serena wished that she could have that kind of grace. Once the sensational sisters finished their show, they got out of the water and waved once more to the audience. The crowd, as well as Serena and Pikachu, erupted into applause while Ash just clapped his hands out of respect and politeness. He just wanted to know when he could battle the gym leader. The sensational sisters then left the room as the audience got out of their seats and began to leave as well. Serena got up to leave, but Ash stopped her. "Wait," he said. "If we hang around here for a bit, the gym leader may show up." Serena nodded and sat back down next to Ash while they waited. Soon everybody had left the room and only Ash, Serena, and Pikachu were left. After about 10 more minutes of waiting, both Ash and Serena figured the gym leader wasn't coming anytime soon. Ash rose from his seat sadly. "I guess the gym leader isn't showing up today. It looks like we will have to try again another time." Serena nodded her head sympathetically, and together they left the performance room and entered the hallway. The hallway was adorned with different fish tanks built into the walls with various fish-like Pokemon swimming to them. "I just don't get it," Ash said to himself as they walked along the hallway. It was then that they heard voices ahead of them. The voices belonged to none other than the sensational sisters themselves. Now that they were a little closer, Ash and Serena could definitely see the family resemblance, except their hair and eye color was different. One had blonde hair with green eyes, one had dark pink hair with blue eyes, and the last one had blue hair with brown eyes. Ash and Serena could swear they also looked just like someone else they knew, but pushed that aside for now. The three teenage girls continued to approach Ash, Serena, and Pikachu as they chatted animatedly to each other about various things. It was then Ash had an idea. Maybe they knew where he could find the gym leader. He and Serena then walked over to them. Excuse." Ash interrupted as politely as he could. The sensational sisters stopped talking and looked at him in surprise. "I'm sorry, but if you two want an interview, you have to call our manager," the pink-haired sister replied. She had Valley Girl accent. "No, it isn't that," Ash said as he shook his head. He was about to try again, but the pink-haired sister interrupted him. "We don't do autographs either," she said almost snootily. "I don't want one." "Just listen," Ash said gently. "I was just wondering if you three knew where the gym trainer was. I would like to have a match." "You're looking at them," the blonde-haired sister, who they presumed to be the oldest sister, said also in a Valley Girl accent. "What?" Ash and Serena asked stupidly. "The three of us are the gym leaders here," the blonde-haired girl said again. "We're the sensational sisters," the pink-haired one said dramatically. "We're world famous." "I'm Violet," the blue-haired one added. "I'm Lily," the pink-haired one introduced. "And I'm Daisy," the blonde-haired one finished. Then what's with all that swimming?" Ash asked in a confused tone. "It's like our hobby, and our fans love it," Lily replied. "We pool our talents to make a big splash," Violet added before she and the rest of her sisters erupted into giggles. Ash and Serena exchanged questioning glances with each other. They were clearly thinking the same thing. These girls seemed to be pretty arrogant, if not a little weird. Ash, Serena, Pikachu, and the sensational sisters were now standing back in the room with the large pool. It was now Ash decided to formally request a match. "I would like to battle you now for the Cascade badge," Ash declared with determination. The sensational sisters got nervous expressions on their faces when Ash made his request. "What's wrong?" Ash asked. "Well, we would accept your challenge if we had Pokemon to battle with," Daisy replied as she played with a lock of her hair. "Wait. You're telling me this is a Pokemon gym, and you don't have any Pokemon to battle with?" Ash exclaimed in disbelief. "It isn't like that," Violet defended. It's just we have suffered so many losses recently that all our Pokemon are like, at the Pokemon Center. This brown spiky-haired kid named Gary Oak from this nowhere place called Pallet Town, and another angry-looking kid named Paul seriously beat us recently. It was a real bummer. Ash's face fell when he realized Gary had already been here, but he briefly wondered if the Paul they had mentioned was the one he met in Pewter City. The only Pokemon left are a Goldeen that can only use its horn attack and a Starmie that won't listen to us. It only listens to our little sister, so there is really no point in battling, Daisy said. Why can't I just battle your little sister then? Ash inquired. She isn't here right now. She left on some journey because she thinks she can prove herself to us, Lily replied. Oh, Ash muttered disappointedly. Well, what am I supposed to do now? I know what want, a Cascade badge, Daisy said as she clapped her hands and a seal-like Pokemon jumped out of the water and opened its mouth to reveal the Cascade badge. Serena took out her Pokédex to scan it. Seal, the sea lion Pokemon. The horn on its head is very hard, and it can smash through thick icebergs, said the Pokédex. Daisy then took the badge from Seal's mouth and held it out to Ash. You can just have it, she said. Ash looked at the badge for a moment before he shook his head. I can't do that. I want to earn my badges. I would never be able to enter the Pokemon League with pride knowing I didn't officially beat every gym leader, he said seriously. Daisy, Violet, and Lily then let out a sigh. If that's how you feel, you will have to wait a few days until all of our Pokemon are healed at the Pokemon Center, Daisy said a little sadly. Ash couldn't help but feel slight anger. Not only did he have to wait a bit to find the gym leaders, now he even had to wait for his match. To top it off, these girls didn't even seem to care about being gym leaders in the first place. He then felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see Serena giving him sympathetic look. He then sighed. Come on, Serena. Let's go. We'll come back in a few days. Hopefully I can battle by then, he said. Serena nodded, and they were just about to leave when they heard a familiar voice shout, Hold it right there. Ash, Serena, and Pikachu spun around to see Misty running towards them and the sensational sisters from the other side of the room. Misty. What are you doing here? Ash asked in surprise. Misty ignored that question until she reached the three sisters. She then looked up at Daisy and gave her a serious expression. If you don't want to battle Ash then I will. She declared. Huh? What gives you the right to battle me for a badge? Ash asked in confusion. These three are my older sisters. I'm the fourth sensational sister. Misty said proudly. Excuse me? There are only three sensational sisters and one runt, Lily said while giving Misty a disapproving look. Misty seated at her older sister's comment while Ash and Serena both thought to themselves, Misty being a gym leader here explains a lot, why she didn't need a recommendation at the Battle Chateau and her unwillingness to come here. What are you doing back here so soon, anyway, little sister? Daisy asked in a condescending manner. Well, Misty trailed. I thought I remembered a certain someone saying she wouldn't come back until she became stronger. Wasn't that you? Violet asked. I might have said something like that, Misty said quietly. Or maybe you came back because you couldn't resist being in our presence because we are much more talented and beautiful than you are. Lily taunted. Misty gritted her teeth in anger again as Ash leaned over and whispered to Serena, Do you think we should intervene on Misty's behalf? I don't think we should get involved in their family's arguments, Serena whispered back. I only came back so soon in the first place because they wanted to come. Misty snapped while pointing to Ash and Serena. Oh, so you know them? Is that kid your boyfriend? Daisy teased. Serena almost shouted out that Misty better not be, but held her tongue. It would only draw unwanted attention to herself. He is not my boyfriend. Misty yelled a little louder than necessary, much to Serena's relief that Misty didn't feel anything like that for Ash. We were just kidding. He isn't someone I would choose for a boyfriend, either, Daisy replied while Ash hung his head. Pika Pie, Pikachu muttered as it patted its trainer on the back. Anyway, I've already said this. I came here to battle Ash since you three won't. If I beat him, it will prove I'm just as good as you three. Misty shouted with determination while also trying to change the subject. Well, you are the only one of us who can battle him right now, so I suppose we don't have a choice, Daisy replied. All right, Ash. Are you ready to rumble? Misty demanded while turning to him. Initially surprised by all of this confrontation between Misty and her sisters, Ash quickly recovered. You bet. I'm in, Misty. I'll beat you and get that Cascade badge fair and square, he said with determination. We'll see about that, Misty smirked. Ash and Misty were standing on opposite sides of the pool and facing each other intently while Serena watched on the sidelines with Daisy, Violet, Lily, and Seal. While he certainly didn't believe he'd ever be facing Misty for an official badge, she had proven herself to be a competent trainer, so Ash felt no feelings about being shortchanged by battling her for a badge instead of her sisters. So what are the rules? Ash called out. Since this isn't your first gym battle anymore, you have to use the same number of Pokemon as me. It will be a 2-on-2 match. You can still make substitutions if you want. While I can't, Misty informed. Sounds good to me. Ash replied back before turning to Pikachu. Are you ready for our second badge, Pikachu? Chuyuo. Pikachu replied with determination. Since you have an advantage over water Pokemon, I'm going to save you for last, Pikachu, Ash told it. The rodent nodded in agreement. I'll go ahead and choose my first Pokemon, Misty declared. I choose Storie. Storie appeared from the Pokeball and onto one of the two small platforms in the pool. Ash had seen this Storie battle a few times before, so he was already aware it was quite strong. In that case, I choose Butterfree. Ash yelled as he released it. Butterfree came out with a cry of free and flew into the air. I'm ready when Ash, Misty declared. If I can beat you, I will feel a lot better about you and Serena destroying my bike. She's still going on about her bike. Serena thought in annoyance before she once again focused on the match that was about to take place. All right. I'll go first. Butterfree. Use Stun Spore. Ash commanded. Butterfree nodded as it flew over Storie and sprinkled the dust on top of it, covering a wide area. Storie began to twitch and shake violently once the dust fell onto it. That won't work here, Ash. Storie, wash it off. Misty told it. Storie inched slowly towards the water due to it being paralyzed and fell in, effectively cleansing it of the powder. It then jumped back out of the water and looked as good as new. Yay! That's the power of water Pokemon. Misty cheered. It looks like status effects won't work here if Misty's Pokemon can just wash the powder off in the water, Ash said to himself. It looks like I'll have to focus on just attacking. Storie, dive underwater and use tackle. Misty called. Storie hopped into the water and the distortion made it difficult for Butterfree to see it underwater. Be on the lookout, Butterfree. I can come out at any time, Ash warned. Butterfree nodded and waited for Storie to appear again. Despite the impossibility of the situation, Ash, Serena, Pikachu, and Butterfree thought Storie had drowned underwater, due to how long it had been there. Suddenly, Storie shot out of the water at lightning speed and spun towards Butterfree. It made a direct hit, and Butterfree was sent reeling back from the high-speed attack. Storie then flew back into the water. That Storie is fast. There has to be a way to counter it, Ash thought. No sooner had he finished this thought than Storie erupted from the water again and went into a spinning tackle towards Butterfree once more. Butterfree, use confusion. Ash said quickly. Butterfree's eyes glowed blue, and it stopped Storie just before it collided with it again. Storie then became enveloped in a blue light. Oh, no. Storie! Misty cried with worry. Send Storie sailing back towards the platform. Ash ordered. Butterfree nodded and Storie went flying back towards dry land and crashed on the platform rather painfully. It then got up slowly. Are you still good to battle, Storie? Misty asked, receiving a nod. Great. Let's try to get Butterfree from far away to avoid its confusion. Use water gun. Misty shouted. Storie jumped into water once again and began shooting many streams of water at Butterfree. As Butterfree moved back and forth dodging the jets of water, Ash couldn't help but be reminded of his gym battle with Brock, only Butterfree was dodging rocks instead of water then. Misty isn't doing too badly, Violet commented from the side. She's better than I thought. Well, we inherited the beauty of this family, so I guess it's only fair that she got some talent in other things, Lily agreed. Eventually, Butterfree was beginning to tire out from dodging so much and Ash knew he had to think of something quickly. Confusion or psychic wouldn't work since Storie was halfway in the water, and it couldn't do a direct attack like tackle either because it couldn't get close due to the water. Try your gust attack to blow Storie away. Ash tried. Butterfree began to flap its wings at Storie, but Misty was ready. Dive underwater to avoid the wind, Storie, she ordered as Storie complied. Darn. That's no good either. Ash scowled. Something then occurred to him. Hey, wait a minute, maybe we can get to Storie while it's underwater also. Butterfree. Use gust on the pool. What's he up to? Misty thought. Butterfree began sending strong gusts of air towards the pool. At first, nothing happened except for a few ripples. As Butterfree continued to blow its gust into the pool, the water began to become pretty choppy. It wasn't much longer before the pool began swaying back and forth violently. Water was splashing out of the pool and hitting the people outside of it, but Ash didn't care. Hey. Watch where you're splashing. Daisy called as she and her sisters were continuously splashed by the turbulent waters. Serena was being splashed herself. She sulked slightly as her clothes were being drenched. She would make sure to get Ash back at some point for this. Despite Storie being an aquatic Pokemon, it was getting hard for it to maintain its control because of how violent the waters were. It was continuously being tossed around and was unable to swim while Butterfree was safely in the air out of harm's way. Storie finally had no choice but to come out of the water, and Ash saw his chance. Butterfree. Now use gust on Storie. Ash called. Butterfree then shifted its attention from the pool to Storie and shot a large gust of wind at Storie. The force was too much for Storie to take, and it flew backwards and slammed hard into the cerulean gym wall. It then slumped in defeat. Oh, Storie, Misty muttered sadly at her fallen Pokemon. That was great, Butterfree. Way to go. Ash cheered. Misty returned Storie to her Pokeball and gave Ash a serious look and said, you may have been able to beat Storie, but this one is going to be much harder. Misty calls, Starmie. The Pokeball opened up to reveal a Pokemon that looked similar to Storie except it was purple instead of tan in color. Its center red jewel was larger, and it had twice as many legs as Storie. Starmie. Ash muttered as he pulled out his Pokédex. Starmie, the center core glows the 7 colors of the rainbow and is sometimes valued as gem, said the Pokédex. It's okay, Butterfree. You can do it. Let's make this 2 for 2. Ash encouraged. Butterfree nodded and got ready for the battle. Starmie. Dive underwater. Misty called. Starmie obeyed and soon disappeared into the water. The pool had settled down since Butterfree had used Gust. Butterfree. Use Gust on the pool just like before. Ash ordered. We're not falling for that one again, catch 'em. Misty hollered. Starmie used Tackle. Like Storie before it, Starmie bolted out of the water and into a spin right towards Butterfree. Butterfree, use Confusion to stop it. Ash called. Butterfree's eyes glowed blue for a moment before Starmie was caught in the blue aura. Much to Ash's surprise, it broke free of the aura and continued to speed towards Butterfree until it collided with it, sending Butterfree reeling back again in pain. I don't get it. Why didn't Confusion work? Ash wondered. Aside from Starmie being a lot stronger than Storie, it's also gained a secondary typing in Psychic. It can now resist Butterfree's psychic attacks a lot easier, Misty answered. Ash knew he was in trouble once he heard that. Starmie, let's give them a taste of their own medicine. Use your own psychic attack. Misty called. Psychic waves began to emit from Starmie before they collided with Butterfree. Butterfree was knocked out of the air and into the water where it began to struggle to get out of the water despite its injuries. Ash, knowing its defeat, decided to return it to its Pokeball. Butterfree, return. He called. The beam returned Butterfree to its Pokeball, and Ash smiled at it. You were great. Butterfree. Thank you. He then turned to look down at Pikachu. You're up, buddy. Chew. Pikachu cried as it jumped onto the second small platform in the pool. Misty smiled. Just because Pikachu is an electric type doesn't mean it has a huge advantage. It only has that small area to battle on while Starmie has the whole room. We'll see about that. Ash shot back. Pikachu. Thunder Shock. Starmie, dodge it. Misty countered. The electricity soared towards Starmie, but it was able to quickly move out of the way due to its speed. Starmie, dive underwater and use Tackle like before. Misty commanded. Once Starmie dove in the water, Pikachu began to scan the waters. It could see a vague shape moving around in the water, but it was very fast and then disappeared. Pikachu mumbled as it was trying its hardest to keep track of Starmie. It then heard the splash of water signaling Starmie had come out, but it couldn't see it anywhere. Pikachu. Heads up. It heard Ash call, but it was too late. Starmie had come out of the water from behind Pikachu and slammed right into its backside, knocking it off the platform and into the pool. Starmie then returned underwater. Ash knew it wouldn't be a good idea to have Pikachu use an electric attack inside of the water unless he risked hurting Pikachu, and probably frying everybody else in the gym to a crisp as well. He tried to think of something but was unable to. In short, Pikachu was helpless in the water. Pikachu. Try to swim back to the platform. Ash said to it. Pikachu began dog paddling back to the platform as fast as it could, but Starmie was faster. It emerged from the water again, but this time from underneath Pikachu. Chaa! Pikachu cried as it was sent soaring through the air. Starmie. Use water gun. Hollered Misty. Starmie shot a jet of water from its top point straight towards Pikachu where it collided with the rodent and sent soaring back onto the hard platform. I think Misty might win this, Daisy said from the side as she and her sisters dried themselves with a towel. Serena was currently in a towel as well and trying to dry her clothes, too, but it was a lot harder for her since she wasn't in a swimsuit like Misty's sisters were. Pikachu, can you stand? Ash asked with worry. Chuyu, Pikachu muttered tiredly as it slowly got up. It was running out of energy. I really hate having to hurt Pikachu like this, but it's necessary because of the gym battle. One more attack should take care of it. Starmie. Use Tackle. Misty called out. Starmie then shot towards Pikachu at great speed once again. Pikachu! Try Thunder Shock again. Ash said through gritted teeth. Pikachu once again launched the attack, but Starmie easily spun out of the way and continued its track to Pikachu. Pikachu was a sitting duck with nowhere to go. It would be in trouble both in and out of water. Ash knew Pikachu probably couldn't take another hit, but he couldn't think of anything. Starmie was too fast to be hit by any of Pikachu's electric attacks. Ash had to admit Misty had trained her Pokemon well. The only way Pikachu would be able to hit Starmie would be if it was stunned. As Ash and Pikachu watched helplessly as Starmie came closer, Ash was reminded of the rocks that were thrown at Pikachu in the pewter gym. How they were traveling at a high speed and Pikachu had to use Iron Tail to deflect them. Wait, that's it? I've got it? Ash thought. He then called out, Pikachu! Get an Iron Tail ready. Pikachu looked at its trainer and nodded its head as its tail began to glow white. It must have been thinking the same thing as its trainer. Starmie was almost upon Pikachu, and it was ready. Pikachu got on all fours. Just as Starmie was about to collide with Pikachu, the rodent leaped into the air and swung its iron tail around right into Starmie. The force of both attacks caused incredible knockback for them both as they went soaring in different directions. Pikachu did a flip in midair and regained its balance while Starmie was still flying backwards, still a little stunned since it received the brunt of the attack. Ash then saw his chance. Pikachu! Thunder Shock! He yelled. Pikachu let loose a massive stream of electricity from its whole body. This thunder shock seemed to be a lot more intense than previous ones. Ash's face lit up with excitement. Once he realized what it was. Pikachu had learned Thunderbolt. The electricity sailed towards Starmie, who was unable to dodge due to its stunned state. It was engulfed in the massive amount of electricity. Oh, no. Starmie! Misty exclaimed worriedly as her Pokemon continued to be shocked. It then began to fall through the air and back into the water where it disappeared. Everyone in the gym, people and Pokemon alike, waited anxiously to see if Starmie would resurface. Everyone had a tense look on their faces. Soon, they saw a shape began to come towards the water's surface. Ash couldn't believe that Starmie could still have fight in it after such a powerful electric attack. Soon, however, he was proven wrong as Starmie broke the water's surface where it simply floated. Its red jewel was blinking in and out. It had been defeated. I can't believe it. You beat Starmie! Misty exclaimed in disbelief. All right. Way to go, Pikachu! Ash congratulated. Pikachu faced Ash and did a V-shape with its fingers before falling in exhaustion. Ash went over to it and scooped Pikachu up in his arms before he went over to where Misty's sisters, Serena and Seal, were waiting for him by the edge of the pool. That was awesome, Ash! Serena praised once he reached them. Thanks, I couldn't have done it without my Pokemon, he said. He then looked down at Pikachu in his arms. Do I have the greatest Pokemon ever or what? Pikachu smiled and nodded its head. As Misty came over to join the group, she was expecting her sisters to make fun of her for losing, but to her surprise, they did just the opposite. Hey, Misty! That was like a super awesome battle you did, Daisy said. Totally, added Violet. You're a lot better than we made you out to be, Lily continued. What do you mean? I lost, Misty asked in bewilderment. Like that doesn't matter. The way you handled your Pokemon was great. You're an excellent trainer, Daisy answered. Wow! You mean it? Misty asked hopefully. Totally. I mean you are one of the 4 sensational sisters, after all, Daisy smiled. You consider me a sensational sister? Misty asked, her eyes shining with tears of happiness. Of course. Despite how we tease you, you know we still love you, Daisy reminded. It was always one of Misty's goals to be recognized by her sisters. Misty wiped her eyes and turned to Ash. Ash, you have definitely gotten a lot stronger since I first met you. You beat me fair and square. You really have earned the Cascade badge. She then handed the blue, tear-shaped badge to Ash. Thanks, Misty, Ash replied as he set down Pikachu to take it. He then held it out in front of him. I just got the Cascade badge. That was a great victory, Ash. How do you feel? Serena asked him. I feel on top of the world. Like I can handle anybody. Ash replied happily. Good. Then handle this. Serena smirked as she quickly pushed Ash into the pool, causing quite a splash. Ash resurfaced and glared at Serena. Hey, what was that for? He asked a little angrily. That was for completely drenching me and my clothes while you were battling, Serena replied with her hands on her hips. She then got closer to the pool to stick her tongue out at him, but Ash saw it coming. Hey, Serena. Think fast. Ash said quickly. He then grabbed her by the leg and pulled her into the pool with him. Serena gave a shriek as she fell into the pool and went underwater, her hat coming off in the process. Serena then came back up to see Ash laughing at her. She then gave Ash a death glare. That's it, Ash Ketchum. You're going to get it? Seeing that look in her eyes, Ash decided to swim for his life. He immediately swam to get out of the pool as fast as he could with Serena right behind him. Everyone else looked on in amusement. Despite Ash being a good swimmer, he wasn't as fast as Serena. She caught Ash and easily overpowered him as she began to dunk him continuously until he cried for mercy. I think we already missed the Battle Chateau challenge today, so I guess we will just have to go tomorrow, Ash informed Serena. Ash, Serena, and Pikachu were now walking through Cerulean City again by themselves. It was now about 5:30 in the evening, and Misty had decided to spend the rest of the day with her sisters. She told Ash and Serena they could stay at the Cerulean gym for the night if they liked, but they politely refused to give Misty better family time. They would just sleep in a Pokemon Center. That's okay. I have more time to prepare if we go tomorrow, anyway, Serena replied. She then added, it's still going to be a couple of hours before we meet Brock, so we might as well find a place to eat. I wish we would have asked Misty or her sisters if they knew of any good places to eat or something we could do for the next 2 hours, Ash sighed. I can't help you out with the food situation, but I know what we can do, Serena told Ash while giving him a wink. Really? What? Ash asked curiously. Shopping. Serena exclaimed happily as they stopped in front of a mall and she stood in front of Ash. It's been a while since I've been to the city. I bet there are some stores with some really cute outfits in that mall. She put her hands on her cheeks and blushed at the thought. Ash and Pikachu got terrified expressions on their faces. Please, Serena. Not shopping. Anything but that. Ash pleaded. Serena gave a pouting look at Ash, but her face soon lit up with excitement and surprise when she saw someone approaching Ash from behind. Ash was about to ask what was up when all of a sudden, his world was covered in complete darkness. Someone was covering up his eyes with their hands. Guess who? A familiar voice asked playfully behind him. Ash recognized the voice immediately but decided to humor the owner of it anyway. It has to be some weird person who likes to sneak up on people. Jerk, the voice's owner responded in mock anger before removing their hands from Ash's eyes. Ash turned around to see Leaf grinning broadly at him and Serena. Ash gave her a smile back. It's good to see you again, Leaf. How have you been? Chapter 14, Cerulean City Chateau. Serena vs. Leaf. Leaf. Serena cried as she ran forward to give her best friend a hug. We haven't seen you since you left Pallet Town. I know. Leaf squealed back, returning the hug. I've really missed you guys. Just today, I was hoping to see both of you soon, and here you are. They both released each other, and Leaf went over to give Ash a bone-crushing hug as well. What about you, Ash? She asked. Gasp, I just earned my second badge, Ash choked out. Really? Can I see? Leaf asked excitedly as she released him. Ash took a second to catch his breath. Then he opened the inside part of his sleeveless jacket and proudly showed Leaf the 2 badges pinned to it. That's really great, Ash. I'm so happy for you. She grinned. So what are you doing here in Cerulean City? Ash asked. I've actually been here in Cerulean City for a few days trying to find the various Pokemon around the area. I've already seen over 50 kinds of Pokemon and caught plenty of them also. Leaf replied. That's amazing. You're well on your way to completing the Pokédex. Serena said excitedly as Ash nodded in approval as well. I also ran into Gary briefly, Leaf mentioned. You did? Ash exclaimed. That bit of information immediately got his attention. What was he doing? He had just received his second badge, also. He even asked about you too, but I told him that I hadn't seen any of you either, Leaf said sadly. She then rolled her eyes. Then. He just had to start bragging about how great he was. I just tuned out that part. Ash and Serena laughed at that. Their friends hadn't changed a bit. I just got back into town from exploring outside the city and was hoping to see some of the sights before I leave, Leaf said as she looked towards the mall. So I figured I would start by going shopping. Ash and I were just fixing to do that, too. Serena exclaimed as her eyes lit up. We were? Ash questioned in a scared tone. In that case, we can all go shopping together. Leaf suggested. It'll be fun. You 2 girls go ahead and do that. Pikachu and I will go do something else in the meantime, Ash said nervously as he began to back away from Serena and Leaf. You're not going anywhere, Ash, Leaf said as she directed her attention to him. She and Serena then leered at Ash. Someone needs to carry our bags. Ash gulped. I think you 2 are strong enough to carry your own bags. You're a boy, so be a gentleman. Leaf scolded as she and Serena each grabbed one of Ash's hands and began to drag him towards the mall. Kill me now, Pikachu, Ash pleaded while looking at the rodent as it was being left behind. Pikachu snickered at Ash's predicament and shook its head while it waved goodbye to its trainer. Its laughter was short-lived, however, as Serena reached out and grabbed Pikachu to carry it along as well. If there was one thing aside from crooks that Ash really hated, it was shopping, and that is the predicament he and Pikachu found themselves in at the moment. To say he felt like he was being tortured was spot on. Leaf and Serena were being shopaholics right now while Ash was forced to carry their bags. Pikachu was unable to carry anything big, so it was left with the tiny things. What made it even worse was Serena and Leaf decided to shop for their Pokemon as well, which just gave more bags for Ash to carry. Deciding to give Ash a break for carrying their things, Serena and Leaf treated him to supper, which he gladly accepted. They were currently eating at the food court in the mall, with the pile of bags beside their table. They even got Pikachu some ketchup, which the rodent was licking at greedily. Ash and Serena were taking this time to get reacquainted with Leaf. So Serena, I know Ash has been collecting badges. What have you been doing? Leaf inquired. I've actually decided to start participating in the Battle Chateau. I saw an advertisement for it at the Pokemon Center in Viridian City and thought it was interesting, Serena told her. Oh yeah. I remember seeing something for that, too. Have you risen any in of the rankings? Leaf asked. Serena's face darkened slightly. Unfortunately, no. Both Ash and I tried it out in Verdian City and were beaten badly. That's the only one I have tried so far, but I'm determined to beat this one. That's the spirit. It looks like you guys are doing great at training your Pokemon. Leaf approved while nodding. Speaking of training Pokemon, you aren't doing any sort of battling goal, Leaf. Do you train yours at all or just capture them? Ash asked before having his shin kicked from underneath the table by Serena. Ash grunted slightly and realized how rude that must have sounded. I mean, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. He tried to correct. It's fine, Ash, Leaf chuckled. I know you didn't mean anything bad by it. To answer your question, I've actually been training very hard. I haven't done any gym battling, but I've battled a few trainers here and there. I always make sure to dedicate some part of my day to bond with my Pokemon, whether it be training, battling, or doing other things with them. That's great. I'd definitely like to have a Pokemon battle with you to see how you've done. Ash said enthusiastically. Normally, I would take you up on that offer, but my Pokemon and I are super tired from exploring today. It will have to be some other time, Leaf smiled sadly. Well, that's okay. Just promise me one next time we run into each other, Ash told her. You got it, Ash. Leaf replied while winking. Serena then looked at a nearby clock on the wall. It was about 6:45. They would need to be meeting Brock again soon. Hey, Ash. It's almost 7 o'clock, she told him. Oh yeah. We need to meet up with Brock, Ash remembered as he got out of his seat. Who's Brock? Leaf questioned. He's one of the friends we're traveling with, Ash told her. I battled him for my Boulder badge, and he decided to come with us on our journey to be the best Pokemon breeder. Would you like to meet him? Sure. Why not? Leaf shrugged. The group and Pikachu quickly gathered their bags and left the food court. Yo, Brocco. Ash called once he, Serena, Leaf, and Pikachu saw him in the distance waiting in the spot where they agreed to meet. Brock noticed the group and ran over to them. Hey, guys. What all have you done today? He asked. See for yourself, Ash replied as he showed Brock his Cascade badge. Way to go, Ash, Brock congratulated as he and Ash fist bumped. Yeah. Would you believe that I battled Misty this time to earn it? Ash asked him. She was one of the sensational sisters that qualified as a gym leader. Imagine that, Brock said to himself. Maybe that was why she was so reluctant to come here. Speaking of Misty, where is she? She is spending the night with her sisters at the gym, so we are on our own at the Pokemon Center, Serena told him. It was then Brock saw Leaf among the group. Oh, hello. What's your name? Brock asked politely. I'm Leaf. I'm a longtime friend of Ash and Serena. I started my journey at the same time they did, Leaf said in a bubbly tone. Brock smiled. Well, it's nice to meet you. I'm Brock, he introduced, to which Leaf nodded in response. He then addressed everyone else. Well, since it's getting late, we better head to the Pokemon Center so we can get a good night's sleep. Right, I need to be prepared for my Battle Chateau challenge tomorrow, Serena said as they began to head in the Pokemon Center's direction. Actually, I was thinking of participating in the Battle Chateau tomorrow as well to see what the hype is about. It sounds like fun. Leaf told the group. Really? Serena asked in surprise. She then grinned. That would be awesome to have another friend be there with me. Great. Leaf replied happily. I think this will be a great way for me to test how well I've been training my Pokemon. Yeah. Just look out because you have me to face as well. Serena reminded Leaf. Hee hee. I know, but I won't go down without a fight. Leaf giggled. She then turned to Ash. Will you root for me, Ash? You bet. Ash said enthusiastically as he gave her a high five. Best of luck to you. He then added, AHH, a friendly rivalry between you and Serena tomorrow. If only I could have something like that with Gary. Of course, Ash. Serena and I just get along like that. We would never fight over who is better or who is going to win over silly reasons. Isn't that right, Serena? Leaf asked while turning to face her. Absolutely. Serena agreed. A thought then suddenly occurred to her. Leaf had already proven herself to be a competent battler from what Samurai had told her. Also, the battle chateau was full of trainers just as serious as she was. No, this couldn't happen. She was starting to get nervous again. Another bad thought then came to Serena. Who would Ash be rooting for tomorrow? He had already told her that he would be rooting for her, but that was before they ran into Leaf, and now he just said he would want Leaf to win. Ash had known Leaf a lot longer than he knew her, so what if he rooted for Leaf instead of her? What if Ash liked Leaf more than he liked her? What's worse is if Leaf liked Ash back. Hey, Serena. What's wrong? Ash inquired once he saw the tense look on her face. Leaf also looked concerned. Serena shook her head. These thoughts were completely ridiculous. She couldn't believe how selfish she was being. Knowing Ash, he would probably root for both of them. Despite her crush, having her want Ash to only want her to win would be completely selfish and not fair to Leaf. These two were her best friends, and she would not be the one to cause problems. It's nothing. I'm fine, Serena told them as her face softened and she gave a smile. Despite this, she still had one nagging thought in her head that wouldn't go away. What do Ash and Leaf think of each other? The battle chateau in Cerulean City looked just as majestic as the first one in Viridian City. The group couldn't help but still be in awe at the sight of the building. Misty still hadn't joined the group and had opted to spend more time at the Cerulean City gym. The group would go to get her once they were finished with the battle chateau. This was Leaf's first time to go in one, so she was really excited. Come on. Let's go. Leaf squealed as she began to pull at Ash and Serena to go in. Ha 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 ha. You don't have to pull at us. We're coming. You're a little too eager. Ash laughed. Leaf smirked at him. Oh yeah? You are one to talk, Ash Ketchum. Who was the one who always went exploring and jumped headfirst with me into all sorts of trouble when we were younger? That might have been me, Ash said sheepishly as he rubbed the back of his head. We certainly have a lot in common, don't we? Yep. Leaf smiled at him. She then began to pull at Ash and Serena again to go inside. Now come on. As she and Ash were being pulled by Leaf, that same nagging thought had come back to Serena. Leaf and Ash really did have a lot in common, more so than Serena had with Ash. She knew Ash, she and Leaf were best friends, so Serena couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. This was no different than how Leaf and Ash usually acted around each other, so why was she suddenly acting jealous? She wasn't actually jealous of Ash and Leaf's relationship, was she? Welcome to the battle chateau, beaux and dames. Hennessy greeted once the group was inside. Hennessy? You come here also? Serena asked in surprise. I beg your pardon, madam, but have we met? Hennessy politely asked. Yes. You were the head butler at the Viridian City battle chateau, Serena told him. Hennessy gave a light chuckle. Ha ha ha. That is my first cousin. We are often mistaken for one and the same. In fact, all of the head butlers at the battle chateau are named Hennessy, and we all look alike. The group sweat dropped. It was the same way with Hennessy as it was with the nurse Joyce and Officer Jennings. In any case, which of you will be taking part in our tournament today? Hennessy asked the group. I will, Serena answered. Me, too. Leaf chirped. Hennessy nodded. Very well. Please follow me as I lead you to the other rooms to change your clothes, he said as he began to walk down the huge hallway. Wow, this place is so big, Leaf said in wonder as she looked at the beautiful room. I know. It's like we are in a real castle. Serena giggled, causing Leaf to smile back at her. Hennessy stopped walking once they came across two maids who bowed to all of them. Please lead these two dames to their changing rooms. They wish to participate in today's tournament, Hennessy told them politely while gesturing to Leaf and Serena. Of course, the maids replied before walking off down another corridor, Serena and Leaf following suit. Ash, Brock, Pikachu were now left alone, and Brock decided to break the silence. You sure are lucky, Ash, Brock told him. What do you mean? Ash asked him curiously. Brock got a mischievous smile on his face. I mean, you have all of these girls that like you and travel with you. Why don't you do anything about it? Huh? Ash exclaimed. Serena and Leaf are pretty cute, Ash, Brock teased. Ash turned beet red. Please stop it, Brock, he muttered embarrassedly. Heh heh. Whenever you are older, you will understand. Just come to your old buddy Brock for love advice when you're ready, Brock said while giving Ash a thumbs up. Oh, brother, Ash mumbled as he covered his face with his palm while Pikachu snickered. Why was Brock teasing him about Serena and Leaf? They were just his friends, weren't they? He had known Leaf since childhood. She was pretty, of course, and he certainly liked her. Then there was Serena, whom he was also glad to have in his life. He still remembered the time they met at summer camp. He would help her out all over again just so she could still be his friend. He didn't know why, but for some reason, he always felt his relationship with Serena was different. It felt like something more than friendship sometimes. What could it be? Maybe Brock was right. He might understand when he's older. He was snapped out of his thoughts when Serena and Leaf arrived back from the changing room. Serena was dressed in the same pink outfit as the first time she was at the battle. Chateau. Leaf was in the same style of dress as Serena, but hers was lime green in color. She also had her hair tied back with a green ribbon instead of a pink headband like Serena had. Like Serena, she had left her hat behind. Ash was quite impressed with how pretty they looked. So guys, do I look okay? Leaf asked Ash and Brock in a somewhat embarrassed tone while placing her hands behind her back. You look more than okay. You look excellent. Brock complimented while nodding in approval. Ash continued to stare until he was elbowed by Brock. Oh yes. You look awesome, Leaf. Ash smiled. What about me, Ash? Serena asked almost sadly. How could I forget you, Serena? You look just as great as you did the last time, if not better, Ash told her, also with a smile. Serena felt a little better after hearing that from Ash. Thank you, Ash, she said. Ash didn't notice anything different about her tone, but Leaf did. Serena, is there anything wrong? You aren't as cheerful as you normally are, Leaf pointed out. I'm fine. I think I'm just a little nervous, Serena half lied. Ash and Brock nodded their heads in understanding while Leaf stared at Serena suspiciously. She knew something more was up with her friend than just a little nervousness. If I may, it is time to start the tournament. Do I need to go over the rules with anyone? Hennessy asked. Serena and Leaf shook their head no. Serena had explained the rules to Leaf on the way to the changing room. In that case, may the young madam in the green dress come with me? You are up first. Your friends might watch from the side, of course, Hennessy said as he motioned for them to follow him. The group was led into the large battle room with a judge in the center. Hennessy bowed to the group one last time before exiting the room. "Here I go. I think this is the first serious battle I've done so far. I'm kind of nervous," Leaf said. "Leaf, you'll do awesome. You have all of us rooting for you. Right, guys?" Ash addressed the others. "You got it?" Brock smiled. "Of course." Serena confirmed as well. Leaf then stepped over to the end of the battle hall while the rest of the group went to the edge to watch. Leaf's opponent soon came out of the room as well. It was another girl, who had blonde hair in pigtails. She also seemed to carry a somewhat haughty expression. "May the two dames please curtsy to one another before choosing their Pokémon," the judge said. Leaf smiled and did a curtsy before the girl, who gave a small one in exchange. "You may now choose your Pokémon," the judge announced. Ash was really eager to see which Pokémon Leaf would send out. He had forgotten to ask her which ones she had on hand right now. Serena stood quietly watching, wondering how good Leaf was should they go up against one another. "Sandshrew, I choose you!" Leaf cried as she sent out a small, sand-colored mouse Pokémon with a cream underbelly. It stood on two legs and had a really tough hide. It had 2 claws on each foot and 3 claws on each hand. Ash and Serena took out their Pokédexes to scan the new Pokémon. Sandshrew, the mouse Pokémon. This Pokémon burrows in the ground in arid regions, which it uses to protect itself, the Pokédexes said. "In that case, I shall choose Meowth," the other girl responded as she sent out her Pokémon. Unlike Team Rocket's Meowth, it looked like a typical Meowth. It was female, stood on 4 legs instead of 2, and apparently lacked human speech. This is an official Battle Chateau challenge between Leaf and Elsa. There will be no time limit. Begin. The judge shouted. "All right, Sandshrew. Let's shake things up with magnitude," Leaf ordered. Sandshrew gave a cry and stomped its foot hard on the ground, causing the room to shake. Due to the special way the room was built for battles, it kept its trainers and any spectators from feeling the vibrations. The Meowth still felt the brunt of the attack. It was struggling to stay on its feet, which Leaf used to her advantage. "Great, Sandshrew. Now use Poison Sting," Leaf called out. Sandshrew shot out a barrage of glowing needles which struck Meowth dead on. "We aren't done yet. Meowth. Use Screech," Elsa ordered. The Meowth then let out an ear-piercing screech, causing everyone else in the room to cover their ears. Sandshrew received the brunt of the attack and its defense was harshly lowered. "Use Quick Attack, Meowth," Elsa ordered as her Meowth dashed forward at great speed and slammed into Sandshrew. Sandshrew was sent toppling backwards and landed on its back. The attack had clearly hurt more due to the screech. "One more quick attack should do it, Meowth," Elsa called out. "Hurry, Sandshrew. Use Defense Curl," Leaf yelled. Sandshrew was able to curl into a tight ball just before the Meowth slammed into it once more. The mouse Pokémon was sent flying backwards but still managed to maintain its curled up position. "Sandshrew, turn that defense curl into a rollout," Leaf shouted. Sandshrew then began to spin very fast. It soon landed on the ground and spun towards the Meowth. It then crashed into it, though it didn't seem to do much damage. The Meowth looked a little dazed from the attack but still seemed ready to fight. "Keep using rollout," Leaf ordered. The Sandshrew then gave a sharp turn as it picked up speed. It then collided with Meowth again. This time it seemed to do more damage. "Try to stop that Sandshrew in its tracks, Meowth," the girl cried. The Meowth was unable to, however. By then, the rollout had grown too strong, and it was knocked backwards onto the ground in defeat. "We have a winner." Meowth is unable to battle, which makes Leaf and Sandshrew the winners of the first round. the judge announced while waving his flag in Leaf's direction. Roll out. I've never seen that move before, Ash muttered. Rollout is a move that increases in power the more times it is used. That's why it did more damage with each successive hit, Brock explained. Oh. I see. I have to admit. Even though Leaf isn't going for the Pokemon League, she is still a pretty good battler, Ash commented. Yeah, Serena agreed. Hey, guys. Leaf called as she and Sandshrew went over to them. You did super, Leaf. I was really impressed. Ash praised. I was as well. You had a good strategy by keeping the Meowth off balance like that, Brock agreed. Thanks. Leaf smiled, but she then noticed Serena wasn't saying anything. Serena, how did I do? Serena got a smile on her face. You did really well, Leaf. Congratulations. She told her. Despite the friendly remark, Leaf could tell how forced Serena sounded. She couldn't help but wonder what was going on with her friend. Here she was. Serena was about to participate in her first Battle Chateau tournament round since Viridian City. Even though she knew she had to relax and keep a cool head, she couldn't help but be really nervous. Even if she did manage to win all the way up to the final round, there was still the possibility Leaf would be there as well, and she appeared to be really good. What if she lost and Leaf won? What if she lost the first round again? Ash would be happy and proud of Leaf instead of her. She couldn't let that happen. Before we begin, may the dame and beau please curtsy and bow to one another respectively. The judge told them. Serena curtsied while a blonde-haired, husky boy bowed back. You may now choose your Pokemon. The judge called. Serena tried to focus on what options she had. Charla clearly had the most battle experience so far, but she would need to save it for the final round, if she got that far. Nidoran had battled a few times but not as much as Charla. Her Jigglypuff had hardly had a real battle at all. Knowing she would need her more experienced Pokemon later, she made her decision. Jigglypuff, go. She cried as she threw Jigglypuff's Pokeball to release it. Jigglypuff came from the Pokeball and began to wave and bow before an invisible crowd. It seemed to still like to pretend it was on stage. Let's go Poliwhirl. The other trainer yelled as a medium-sized, blue tadpole Pokemon appeared. It had 2 arms and legs and what looked like white gloves on its hands. It had no mouth and had a vortex facing counterclockwise on its white stomach. A Poliwhirl, Serena muttered as she scanned it. Poliwhirl, the tadpole Pokemon and the evolved form of Poliwag. This Pokemon can live both in and out of water. The spiral on its stomach causes drowsiness, the Pokédex said. Be careful, Serena. Poliwhirl's an evolved Pokemon. Ash warned. Serena heard his warning and frowned. Did Ash think that just because Poliwhirl was evolved that she couldn't handle it? Did he think Leaf would be better suited to face an evolved Pokemon instead of her? Quit it, Serena. Ash isn't like that at all. What's wrong with me? I'm being so unfair to Ash and Leaf right now. They are my best friends. Serena thought to herself. This is an official match in the Battle Chateau tournament between Serena and Joseph. There will be no time limit. Begin. The judge called. Poliwhirl. Use water gun on Jigglypuff. Joseph called out. Poliwhirl immediately shot out a jet of water at Jigglypuff which pushed it back into the wall. Jigglypuff shook it off and got an angry look on its face for getting wet. That's okay, Jigglypuff. Use pound. Serena yelled. Jigglypuff began to puff up so it could float and began to fly towards Poliwhirl. Shoot that Jigglypuff out of the sky with water gun, Joseph said. The Poliwhirl once again shot a stream of water at Jigglypuff. However, Jigglypuff was quicker in the air and dodged the attack. It then reached Poliwhirl and smashed its fist into Poliwhirl's face, which caused it to cry in pain. Grab Jigglypuff and use Mega Punch, Poliwhirl. The other trainer called. Poliwhirl reached out and grabbed Jigglypuff before it could get away. It then reared its arm back and delivered a powerful punch to Jigglypuff's face. Jigglypuff was sent sailing back but slowed down significantly due to it still being inflated. It rubbed its cheek and glared at the Poliwhirl. How dare that Poliwhirl punch it in the face like some punk? It wanted to be a star. It'll show this Pokemon. Without waiting for Serena's orders, Jigglypuff flew forward and began to ruthlessly slap Poliwhirl across the face continuously, surprising the Poliwhirl as well as everyone else in the room. Puff! 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 Jigglypuff yelled as it continued to slap Poliwhirl silly. Once it was finished, it deflated itself and began to pound it back and forth. Serena, Ash, Brock, Leaf, and Pikachu continued to stare in surprise at how Jigglypuff was acting. Poliwhirl! Try to fight back! Joseph cried out. It was no use, though. Jigglypuff was delivering such a barrage of attacks that Poliwhirl was unable to retaliate. It finally couldn't take it anymore and fell over with swirls for eyes. Jigglypuff then stood over Poliwhirl in victory. Puff! It cried. Nobody would punch its beautiful face and get away with it. Poliwhirl is unable to battle. Jigglypuff is the winner. The judge said, somewhat in shock at the display that went on. Serena was incredibly happy she won her first match at the Battle Chateau but decided Jigglypuff could still use some training. She chuckled nervously once she saw her opponent was glaring at her from across the room. He returned Poliwhirl and left the room rather swiftly. That was a great battle, Serena. Ash said as he went over to her. You won your first Battle Chateau challenge. I knew you could do it. Thank you, Ash, Serena said quietly. Hey, Serena. I know Jigglypuff might have acted a little out of line for its first battle. All you need to do is make sure to have a few more battles with it to prove yourself. You too. Will be just fine, Brock assured her. Serena shut her eyes tight. This day had been really stressful for her so far. She was acting like a jealous fool. She was worried about Ash and Leaf liking each other, and even though she won the round in the Battle Chateau, it felt more like it was all because of Jigglypuff's attitude rather than Serena's training. That made the win more embarrassing than anything. Plus, she still had 3 more battles to win before she could achieve a new rank. Her friends continued to stand around her in confusion. They just weren't getting why Serena was acting this way. It had been a really tough time, but both Serena and Leaf had managed to win the next 2 rounds. Leaf had used a Spearow and a Beedrill to battle in the next rounds, while Serena had stuck to her Nidoran. She felt a bit better after winning the next 2 rounds the right way, but was still upset because of everything else. The group was currently out in the lobby. They were given 5 minutes of rest to prepare. Now the final round of the Battle Chateau challenge was about to begin, and as Serena had feared, she was facing her friend, Leaf. She wanted to beat Leaf so bad. If she lost, Ash would notice how good Leaf was instead of her. She had to win. She couldn't take it anymore after all of the hugs and high fives she had seen Ash and Leaf give each other. She had pushed all of her feelings of regret away by now. She had to beat Leaf in order to receive recognition from Ash. So, Ash, who do you want to win? Leaf asked him while smiling. Ash smiled back. You don't have to ask me that, Leaf. It's obvious. If I could choose, I would be happy if you won, but what about me, Ash? Serena suddenly cried out, causing everyone to look at her in surprise and confusion. Don't you want me to win as well? We've been traveling together for the past few weeks. Why are you picking Leaf over me? Serena, of course I want you to win. I was going to say I want both you and Leaf to win. You didn't let me finish. You're both my friends. I don't want to see any of you lose. I can't choose one of you over the other, Ash said, completely taken aback. Leaf then got a very rare but still angry look on her face. What's wrong with you, Serena? This isn't like you at all. What happened to us not fighting over who would win? It's nothing, Serena lied. Leaf didn't buy it. We are going to have a talk right now, Leaf said firmly as she grabbed Serena by the wrist and began to drag her off into a nearby bathroom. Ash, Brock, and Pikachu watched in confusion, still pretty surprised by Serena's outburst. What is wrong with you, Serena? I hate seeing you like this, Ash thought. If only he knew. What's gotten into you, Serena? Leaf asked angrily once they were in the bathroom. You've been acting really distant all day and even shouted at Ash. Serena avoided eye contact with Leaf and stared at the ground. She had done the very thing she told herself she wouldn't do, be the one who was causing problems. I am. Serena stuttered. Yes. Leaf urged. Do you like Ash, like, more than a friend? Serena asked and immediately realized how childish she sounded right now. Despite that, she couldn't take it anymore. She had to know if any of her fears were justified. It still wouldn't excuse her behavior, though. Leaf immediately understood where she was going with this and gave Serena a hard stare. Serena, you're the one that has a crush on Ash. Do you really think I'm the type of girl who would try to steal Ash from you, after knowing that you like him? I thought we knew each other better than that, she exclaimed. Serena immediately got a look of regret on her face. Leaf was one of the first people who knew of her crush on Ash and had even supported her. Now, here Serena was, thinking her best friend was trying to win Ash's affection, also. She felt horrible. Ash and Leaf were acting no different than they usually do with each other, so why did she feel jealous now? And not before? Maybe she. Serena, you should know better than anyone how close Ash and I are, Leaf scolded slightly, still having a frown on her face. It's true that I like Ash, but not like that. He's like a twin brother to me, and I can tell Ash doesn't like me as more than a friend, either. I am so sorry, Leaf, Serena said as tears began to spill from her eyes. You two are such great friends to me, and I began treating you all terribly just because I was jealous. It seems I've still got a lot of maturing to do. Ash and I have a great relationship, Serena, but you have a great one with him as well, Leaf told her. You get to travel with him every day now. You get to see all of his battles. He gets to see yours as well. You get to be with him all the time and experience things together. Because of this, you two can support each other every day. Serena had though about the words Leaf had said. She was right. She and Ash had been through so many things together. She had no right to be jealous of another girl's relationship with him. Not to mention, I think Ash acts differently towards you than me, and I mean that in a good way. I think he might have some suppressed feelings for you as well. He just hasn't realized them yet, Leaf told her. Do you forgive me, Leaf? Serena asked with tears still in her eyes. I will on one condition, Leaf stated. What's that? Serena asked. We have a great final battle together as friends, not rivals. Also, no matter who wins, we are happy for the other for their friend's victory just like we agreed in the first place. Leaf told her while finally losing her frown to replace it with a smile. Serena dried her tears and gave Leaf a smile of her own. You got it, Leaf. She then added, and I also promise to control my emotions a lot better. It was wrong of me to act the way I did because I misunderstood everything. That sounds more like the Serena I know, Leaf smiled. Yeah. Let's go have a great battle. Just watch out because I'm going to win. Serena said with determination as they left the bathroom. Is everything okay? Ash asked awkwardly once he saw the girls re-emerge from the bathroom. Everything has been settled, Ash. Leaf said while giving him a wink. However, there was one thing Serena still had to do. She went over to Ash and embraced him with a hug. I'm really sorry, Ash, she said sincerely. Serena? Ash questioned. He was rather surprised by this sudden gesture from Serena. He gave a questioning look at Leaf, who just nodded her head in Ash's direction. Ash knew that was a signal to just accept the hug. He slowly wrapped his arms around Serena to return the embrace. Brock and Pikachu smiled as they watched the scene before him. It was just as they thought. There was certainly something going on between those two. Serena and Leaf were now standing at each end of the battle hall ready to face each other. Serena had gotten over her jealousy and nervousness after talking to Leaf and now had her focus completely on the battle in front of her. She felt more than ready right now and was determined to receive the rank of Viscountess. This is an official match of the Battle Chateau tournament. Whoever wins this round shall receive their plaque and move up to the next rank. The trainers may now curtsy to one another and choose their Pokémon. The judge announced. Serena and Leaf did as told and gave polite curtsies to one another. It was then time to choose their Pokémon. Come on out, Charla. Serena called once she threw the Pokeball. With Charla being the most experienced so far, she hoped she could win. I see you are saving your strongest for last. I was doing the same thing. Leaf called out. Ivysaur, I choose you. She then threw the Pokeball. The group watched as a Pokémon that looked similar to Bulbasaur appeared. It was a little larger than one and was a darker shade of blue. Instead of a bulb on its back, it had bloomed into a bud. An Ivysaur. Serena muttered as she pulled out her Pokédex. Ivysaur, the seed Pokémon and the evolved form of Bulbasaur. Exposure to sunlight adds to its strength and makes the bud on its back grow larger, the Pokédex spoke. That must be the Bulbasaur she started out with, Serena thought. It's already evolved. She hoped that Charla could stand up to the challenge. This is great. We can each battle with our starter Pokémon. Just because Charmander has the type advantage doesn't mean I can't win. Leaf told her. Ash and Brock stood watching on the sidelines. They were both happy Serena was feeling a lot better now than she was earlier. They also knew that this would be a tough fight for both of them. No matter who won, though, they would be happy for their friend. This match will have no time limit. Begin. The judge shouted. Charla, use Ember. Serena shouted. Charla blew forward, and its embers shot out like a rocket and struck Ivysaur dead on, causing it to yell from the super effective hit. Shake it off, Ivysaur, and use Vine Whip. Leaf called. Ivysaur then shot out its vines and flung them at Charla. Charla had tried to run out of the way, but the vines followed it and grabbed it. Charla was then lifted off of the ground and into the air. Now that you have control of it, you know what to do, Ivysaur. Leaf told it. Ivysaur then began to slam Charla onto the ground continuously with its vines. Serena cringed at the situation Charla was in. She had to get her Charla to break free. Charla, use Ember. Serena called to it. Charla then shot its embers out again, but Ivysaur was ready this time and jumped out of the way despite the speed the embers were traveling. It then continued to slam Charla into the ground. This isn't good if Ivysaur's quick enough to get out of the way, Serena thought. She then noticed how the vines were attached to Ivysaur and had an idea. Charla, use Ember again, but this time use it on the vines. Serena called. Oh no. Ivysaur, throw Charmander away from you. Leaf cried. Ivysaur swung its vines around and threw Charla through the air, but not before Charla was able to light Ivysaur's vines on fire with ember. The fire traveled along the vines until they got to Ivysaur, where it began to get burned. Charla was able to land on its feet despite the powerful throw. It was still showing signs of fatigue, however. Meanwhile, Ivysaur had withdrawn its vines back into itself to stop the fire. Use sweet scent, Ivysaur, Leaf called. Ivysaur then released an aroma from its bud that drifted toward Charla. Charla breathed in the smell and got a relaxed look on its face. It felt so peaceful. Charla, try to snap out of it, Serena yelled. Charla didn't seem to hear Serena as it continued to have a peaceful smile on its face. Use leech seed now that Charmander's distracted, Leaf called. Ivysaur then launched a seed from its bud straight at Charla. Charla wasn't paying it any attention though because of the sweet scent. The seed landed on Charla as vines began to cover it. This broke Charla out of its trance, and it began to struggle. Char! It cried in pain as its energy began to get sapped from it. Wow! Leaf's a lot better than I thought she would be. She should definitely consider being a trainer, Ash commented from the side. You're right. She isn't letting the type disadvantage bother her at all. Serena really has her work cut out for her now that her Charmander's in Leech Seed, Brock agreed. Let's win this with takedown, Ivysaur, Leaf called. Ivysaur began to charge forward straight at Charla. The salamander Pokemon wasn't able to move very well because it was trapped within the Leech Seed. It wouldn't be able to get out of the way in time. Serena looked on with worry as she knew Charla was in big trouble if it was hit with another attack. There had to be something she could do. It was. Then she noticed Charla's tail flame began to get larger like before. It was just like her battle with Samurai. Charla's special ability, Blaze, had activated. Charla, use Ember, she called. Charla blew forward, but instead of the tiny embers, huge fireballs had erupted from its mouth. The power of fireballs also incinerated the vines from Leech Seed and sailed towards Ivysaur. The seed Pokemon had just been about to crash into Charla when Serena had ordered the attack, so it received the fireballs at point-blank range. Ivysaur yelled in pain as it was scorched by the fireballs. The fire lizard jumped away from Ivysaur and began to pant heavily. Serena had hoped that was enough to take Ivysaur down. What she wasn't counting on was for Ivysaur's special ability, Overgrow, to take effect, too. Ivysaur's eyes seemed to get a certain fire in them as its plants seemed to grow larger. Serena became worried as she knew that, like Charla, Ivysaur's grass-type moves just got a lot more powerful. Things just got a lot worse than they already were. Alright? Now that your special ability has activated also, use Razor Leaf, Leaf called. Use Metal Claw to try to swipe them away, Charla, Serena yelled. The seed Pokemon then began to shoot a humongous stream of sharp leaves at Charla. Charla's claws glowed white, and it began to move its arms back and forth at lightning speed, slashing every one of them. Serena was quite impressed with Charla's precision. I don't think this is getting us anywhere. They are evenly matched. I better have Charla use Ember while I can, Serena thought. She then called out, Charla, Ember. Leaf must have been thinking along the same lines as she ordered her Ivysaur use its strongest attack so far, Petal Dance. A flurry of large, glowing leaves shot from the plant on Ivysaur while Charla shot a stream of fire from its mouth. Serena smiled when she saw that they weren't embers that shot from Charla's mouth anymore. Charla must have learned Flamethrower. What awesome timing! The attacks soared through the air and connected with each other midway, creating a large explosion. The force of the blast threw each Pokemon backwards as the smoke engulfed them. Pretty soon, the smoke had covered the whole center of the battle hall where the Pokemon were. Everyone in the room waited intently for the smoke to clear, especially Serena and Leaf. They knew that their Pokémon were at the end of their ropes and wondered if they had made it through the explosion. After what seemed like an eternity, but really about 30 seconds, the smoke had cleared. Both Ivysaur and Charla were standing and glaring hard at each other. Each trainer sighed that they had to battle even longer. Then, without warning, Leaf's Ivysaur collapsed to the ground in defeat. Everyone stared in shock for a moment. Ivysaur is unable to battle. The winner is Charmander, and the one who will be ascending in rank today shall be Serena for winning the tournament. The judge called. Serena stood in shock for a moment. She had actually done it. She had really just won her first Battle Chateau tournament. Maybe she really was capable of being a trainer, after all. Way to go, Charla! Serena cried as she sprinted towards her Pokémon. She then knelt down. You were great, she praised. Charla gave a tired smile before it fell over in exhaustion as well. Serena smiled sympathetically and picked her Pokémon up in her arms. Leaf, meanwhile, gave a sad smile and returned Ivysaur to its Pokeball. She then thanked it for an awesome job and went over to where Serena was standing. Ash and Brock were on their way over as well. You did awesome, Serena. Ash praised. Pikachu agreed. You really came through at the last moment. You should be proud. Brock said. Well, Serena. You beat me, after all. Congratulations, and thanks for a great battle. Leaf said. Thanks everyone. Serena smiled. See, Serena. What did I tell you? I knew you had it in you as a trainer. I know you will become a duchess in no time. Ash said as he gave her thumbs up. Serena blushed and looked away. Just because she was over her jealousy for the time being didn't mean her blushes would go away anytime soon. A few minutes later, the friends were standing in the lobby where Hennessy presented Serena her certificate and symbol to show she had achieved the rank of Viscountess. She even received a small case to keep the items in. Well done, madam. I hope for you to participate in future tournaments, Hennessy told her. You bet. Serena said excitedly as she looked down at her certificate and symbol happily. She had a huge boost in confidence now that she had won her first official battle Chateau tournament. Maybe she could achieve the rank of Duchess, after all. The sun was now setting on Cerulean City as evening approached. The group had gone and gotten Misty as soon as they left the Battle Chateau. Misty was sad to leave her sisters so soon, but they assured her that she was welcome back any time, which made her really happy. It was now time to head out to their next destination. According to Brock, they should probably go to Vermilion City next. Misty couldn't wait to be next to the beach. Unfortunately, for Ash and Serena, they knew they would be parting with Leaf again soon, but decided to try anyway. Leaf, are you sure you don't want to travel with us for a little bit? Serena asked hopefully. All bitter feelings she had felt earlier were now gone. Leaf was such a good friend. Yeah, Ash agreed. No thanks. I've still got to stay in this area for a little bit longer. It turned out to be much bigger than I thought. I need to make sure to get Pokédex information on all the available Pokémon. I heard there was a Pokémon maniac around the Cerulean Cape up farther north named Bill. I think I might go visit him. Leaf replied. Ash and Serena smiled sadly. We understand. We'll make sure to call you more often from now on to see how you're doing. Feel free to call us anytime as well, Ash said. Of course, Leaf replied as she hugged Ash goodbye. She then went over to Serena. Now remember to take good care of Ash since I'm not here. Someone has to keep him line. I'm the one that needs taking care of. Ash questioned, which caused both girls to giggle. Leaf and Serena then hugged each other. I'm really sorry about earlier, Serena whispered again. It's okay, Leaf assured as they released each other. She then got a serious look. Just don't do it again. It was nice meeting you, Brock said as he gave a nod in her direction. You, too, Leaf responded. Until next time, Leaf, see you later. Ash said as he and the rest of the group turned to leave the city. Bye, guys. Hope to you all, soon. Leaf shouted out. The group continued to wave until they turned a corner and Leaf was out of sight. The whole group ended up having a great experience in Cerulean City. Ash had obtained his second badge. Serena had won her first Battle Chateau tournament and achieved the rank of Viscountess. They had even reunited with Leaf for a little bit. Misty had patched things up with her sisters so she wasn't nervous around them anymore. As for Brock, the group never quite figured out what he was doing while they were at the gym. The only clue they had was his goofy smile afterwards. Out of all of them, it had been Serena who matured the most. She realized from now on to not jump to conclusions about anything, whether it involves Ash or otherwise. Even if she still wasn't ready to tell Ash how she felt yet, but felt reassured that no matter what happened, everything would turn out okay with him in the end. She did have a lot of great friends supporting her, after all. Chapter 15, The Hidden Village. The group knew that it would still be a while before they reached Vermilion City. It was still a good 3 weeks away, in fact. With as long as they would be away from any major cities, it was times like this that the group was thankful to have Brock with them. Thanks to his abilities to read a map and cooking skills, everyone knew they were in good shape. After they left Cerulean City behind them, the group had decided to have a nice rest after all that happened. They camped a few of days outside the city and used that time to just relax. They played games with their Pokemon, slept in, and just enjoyed the scenery and bonding time with their Pokemon. The days to relax were over now, and it was time to start heading towards Vermilion City again despite the distance. The group figured since it was still a while before they would get there, it would be a prime time to catch some more Pokemon. Let's see, this forest doesn't seem to have anything interesting in it aside from some wild Pokemon if any of you are interested. I see no reason to stay here for any longer than necessary, Brock muttered as he read the map. The rest of the group nodded as they continued to walk. While they were wandering through the forest, they noticed an Oddish cross their paths. Oh. It's an Oddish. Cool. Ash said as he and Serena took out their Pokédexes. Oddish, the weed Pokemon. During the day, Oddish usually bury themselves underground to avoid the harsh sun and grows by absorbing moonlight, the Pokédexes said. I think Oddish is so cute. Would you mind if I tried to capture it, Ash? Serena asked. Be my guest. Ash smiled. All right. Jigglypuff. I choose you. Serena called as she released the balloon Pokemon. The Pokemon did a bow and pose once it came out of the Pokeball. It really wasn't in the mood to battle. To the group's surprise, it began to sing. It had to practice, after all. Wait, Jigglypuff. This is no time to sing. Serena called out frantically, causing the Pokemon to puff its cheeks in anger at her. We promise we will listen to you later, but for now, I need you to help me capture that Oddish. Jigglypuff held its angry look for a second before it deflated itself and nodded. The group sighed in relief that they wouldn't be put to sleep for the moment. They had enough relaxation the past few days. Plus, there was the fact that Jigglypuff would draw on their faces. Jigglypuff then went over to Oddish who watched it in confusion. Without warning, Jigglypuff reached over and pounded Oddish on its head. It then followed up with a double slap. Attack. Jigglypuff figured the sooner Serena could capture the Oddish, the sooner it could perform. Jigglypuff. Wait for my orders. Serena called, trying to get Jigglypuff's attention. Jigglypuff wasn't listening, though, as it continued to slap Oddish continuously. The group groaned at Jigglypuff's antics. Yeah, Serena decided it could still definitely use some training. While Jigglypuff was fine most of the time, when it wasn't in the mood to do something, it was hard to get it to reason. Oddish soon began to cry at the ruthless way Jigglypuff was treating it. It almost felt like it was being punished. All it was doing was walking on its way to get a drink of water. Not to mention, it wasn't feeling that well to begin with. Jigglypuff was about to land the finishing blow for its trainer to catch the Pokémon, but to it and everyone else's surprise, another Pokémon leaped into the clearing and delivered a tackle attack to Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff was knocked to the side and glared at the Pokémon who gave it a sneak attack. The Pokémon in question turned out to be a Bulbasaur. It glared back at Jigglypuff and then glared at the humans and Pikachu for daring to harm its friend. Oh wow! It's a wild Bulbasaur, Ash said in surprise. I wonder if I can capture it? Upon hearing this, Bulbasaur immediately scowled and shot a razor leaf at everyone in the group, causing them to duck for cover. It then picked up Oddish with its vine whip and disappeared into the sea of trees. They both got away, Serena said sadly as she and everyone else stood back up. Jigglypuff then went over to the group and gave them an intense stare. It still expected a mock concert performance despite Oddish not being captured. The group sighed and got out their tape recorder for Jigglypuff to sing into. It looks like their journey was still going to be delayed slightly longer than they had hoped. At least they wouldn't have to worry about Jigglypuff drawing on their faces. After allowing Jigglypuff to perform, and falling asleep due to its voice, the group was finally ready to continue with their journey. It had been about 2 hours since the group had the encounter with Oddish and Bulbasaur, and they hadn't seen a trace of the two. They figured it was best to just forget about the incident and move on. They were now upon an old bridge in the middle of the forest that they would need to cross. They looked over the cliff and saw it was long way down to the water should they fall. Do we really have to cross this bridge? Surely there is another way to cross, Misty pleaded. I don't really like the looks of it myself, Ash agreed. We better try to cross this bridge one at a time. We don't need to put any more weight on here than we need to. I'll go first, Brock volunteered. Brock then began to make his way across the bridge as slowly as possible. The group was watching him nervously from behind. Just keep going slowly, Brock said to himself. Just then, a strong gust of wind appeared from seemingly nowhere, causing the bridge to swing violently. He was beginning to lose his balance. Brock! Hold on! Ash cried out as he saw the danger his friend was in. Brock tried to hold on as best as he could, but the wind was too strong. He soon toppled over the side of bridge as the rest of the group watched in horror. Brock had managed to hold onto the edge, but was struggling. In their panic, Ash, Serena, Misty, and Pikachu had forgotten about how rickety the bridge was. They immediately ran onto the bridge to try to help Brock. Unfortunately, the extra weight was all the bridge needed to snap in half. Brock was sent plummeting into the water below as the rest of the group desperately grabbed onto any part of the bridge they could. Ash, Serena, and Misty were clinging for dear life onto the dangling bridge. Ash had managed to get a hold onto a fully intact part of the bridge, thus, he was able to climb to the ground above. Pikachu rode on Ash's shoulder, so it was safe as well. Serena and Misty weren't so lucky. They had no footing like Ash had and were holding onto the edge of the bridge as tight as they could. Serena, Misty, can you guys climb at all? Ash called out to them. The two girls tried as hard as they could, but didn't have the strength to pull themselves up. Ash knew this was a bad situation. If he didn't think of something quick, both girls would soon fall into the water below just like Brock had. Maybe his flying Pokémon could help. Pidgeotto. Butterfree. Go. Ash yelled as he released them. As soon as the Pokemon appeared, Ash gave his commands. Okay, guys. I want you to fly underneath Serena and Misty and help push them up. That way they can get a proper footing on bridge. Ash told them. His Pokemon nodded and immediately went underneath the two girls. They then proceeded to nudge them with their heads to help them up. Because of the push the two flying Pokemon were giving them, Serena and Misty now had the strength to pull themselves farther up the bridge. Once they were within reaching distance, Ash reached out his hand to help them the rest of the way up. Pikachu was attempting to help as well by pulling on their pinkies. Serena and Misty had finally made it back onto the ground above and gave a huge sigh of relief. Ash returned Pidgeotto and Butterfree and sighed with relief as well. However, they knew they weren't all accounted for. Brock. Misty trailed as she and Serena began to sob. They couldn't believe their friend was gone so quickly. Ash, however, got a determined look on his face. Never give up until the end, remember. Brock is still alive. I know it. Let's start by going along the water level to find him, he said. Serena and Misty dried their tears and nodded. They then got up and followed Ash along the edge of the cliff. Pikachu. Can you pick up Brock's scent anywhere? Ash asked it. Pikachu began to sniff the air as it tried to find some sort of lead. Since the open forest was much more refreshing than the air inside MT Moon, Pikachu was able to pick up on something rather quickly. Its ears perked up, and it signaled the rest to follow it. The group then took off in search of Brock. Ash, Serena, Misty, and Pikachu had been looking for Brock for over 2 hours and still hadn't found him. Pikachu had managed to lead them down to the water bank at the edge of the river. His scent then led from the edge of the water to another part of the woods. The group gave a huge sigh of relief as this meant Brock was surely alive. They just needed to find him now. Brock's scent seemed to be getting stronger and stronger as the group kept following Pikachu. They smiled broadly as they knew it wouldn't be long before they found Brock. Unfortunately, they were so excited they didn't notice the rope that was placed on the ground. The group stepped right into it, which activated a trap. Soon, they found themselves suspended in a net, and it was a really tight fit. Hey! Who put this trap here? Ash called out in surprise as they struggled to get free. I don't know, but get your elbow out of my face, Ash Ketchum. Misty yelled. Misty, your foot is jammed right into my side. Serena complained. Chuyuo, Pikachu choked as it was struggling to find room among the bigger humans. Hold on, guys. Let's just stay calm and think of a plan, Ash said. There are no plans. What are we supposed to do? We can't even reach for our Pokeballs because it's so crammed in this net. Misty retorted. It was then that the group heard laughter below them. They looked down to see a Bulbasaur below them. It had a smirk of triumph on its face. In fact, it looked just like the one from earlier. Hey, Bulbasaur. Could you help us down from here? We are kind of stuck, Ash called out to it. Bulbasaur shook its head as it continued to smirk at the group. It then turned around to walk into another part of the woods. Hey! Wait! You can't just leave us here! Ash cried out as he watched it leave. What do you suppose that Bulbasaur's problem is with people anyway? Serena wondered to herself. I don't know, but I swear if Ash doesn't get his elbow out of my face, I'm going to scream. Misty shouted. Ash, Serena, and Pikachu sighed. Not only were they packed like sardines in a net suspended above the ground, they had to listen to Misty's nagging as well. The group soon heard more footsteps approaching. They hoped that whomever it was, they would be able to help them down. To their great relief and happiness, Brock appeared in the clearing and saw the group. Brock. You're okay. What happened? Ash shouted in happiness. I'll explain in a little bit. Right now, let's get you guys down from there, Brock told them. Brock then noticed a part of the rope that was holding the net up by him. He then reached into his backpack and pulled out a small pocket knife. He cut the rope, which caused the net fell to the ground, where everyone landed with a painful groan, but at least they were free. Brock was then bombarded with questions by the rest of the group. How did you survive? Where were you this entire time? How did you know where we were? Chew. Chew. Pakapi. Brock motioned with his hands for them to calm down. It's okay. I'll explain everything, he said. He then put a finger over his lips to signal them to be quiet. Despite the fact they were in the middle of a forest, Brock still made sure no one else was around. Follow me, he whispered as he turned around to walk off. The group wordlessly followed him. While they were walking through the forest, Brock decided to relate his experience to the group but still talked quietly. After I fell into the water, I was carried rapidly down the stream. The current was moving so fast that I was unable to swim at all. I thought I was a goner. Luckily, I was close to the edge of the river and was able to grab onto some rocks I saw in the distance. It was then that the most beautiful girl in the world saw my predicament and rescued me. A beautiful girl rescued you? Are you sure you didn't just hit your head and were dreaming? Misty deadpanned. I was not dreaming. It really happened, Brock defended. After she rescued me from the river, she could see I had various cuts and bruises. She then led me to a small clearing in the forest to her home and treated me there. It's then that I decided to search for you guys. While I was walking through the forest, I heard you guys scream. I followed the noise, and the rest is history. I see. Well, we're just glad you're okay, Ash said quietly as they followed Brock. Me, too, but why are you telling us to keep quiet? Misty asked. I'm leading you to the hidden place in the forest where I was rescued. This is a secret place to most people, especially trainers. I don't want to compromise its location in case the wrong people hear about it, Brock replied. The group nodded. It was then that saw a break in the trees ahead. They went through the trees and entered into a small but sufficient clearing which consisted of a pond and log cabin. The group spotted a teenage girl roughly the same age as Brock tending to some Pokemon. Upon hearing the footsteps behind her, she turned around and smiled once she saw Brock. Hello, Brock. Welcome back, she said pleasantly. The group took in her appearance. She was thin and had long blue hair that was tied into a ponytail and held by a large yellow bow. She also wore a red headband on her head. And had blue eyes. Brock was right. This girl was relatively pretty, but that was beside the point. Thank you, Brock replied as he and the rest of group stopped a short distance from the girl. Melanie, I'd like you to meet my friends. This is Ash, Misty, and Serena. So you're Brock's friends. He told me all about you, Melanie smiled. That's great. Serena replied. She then noticed the dozen or so small Pokemon that were gathered around the area. So do all of these Pokemon belong to you? Oh, no, Melanie said. This is a place where Pokemon can come anytime they need rest. So is it like a camp? Ash asked. Not exactly, Brock decided to respond this time. Whenever Pokemon become injured or abandoned, they can come here and Melanie takes care of them. Then they leave when they feel better. I see, Misty said. So this is like a Pokemon center and Melanie's a Pokemon doctor. Oh, no, Melanie giggled. I don't have the qualifications to be a Pokemon doctor. I just take care of the Pokemon that come here. She then went over to pet some of the Pokemon with her back to the group. Melanie collects plants around the village to use for medicine, Brock told them. She knows all about what type of plants can help which Pokemon. It seems like you both love taking care of Pokemon, Serena commented. We sure do, Brock agreed. He then gave a somewhat longing expression at Melanie while she wasn't looking. Misty noticed this and got a sly look on her face. You like her, don't you, Brock? She asked deviously. Brock blushed and put both his hands over her mouth. Quiet. She might hear you. He whispered harshly. Ash suddenly realized something. So was that net that captured us earlier set by you, Melanie? He asked, but not in an accusing way. Melanie turned around and got an apologetic look on her face. Yes. It was me. You see, I have to protect the Pokemon here, so I must capture trainers before they enter the village, she confirmed. Yeah. I made a promise to Melanie that we wouldn't try to capture any Pokemon while we are here, Brock told them. That's no problem. I can keep that promise, Ash said. Me, too, Serena agreed. It seems like a great thing you are doing here, Melanie. You wouldn't mind to share a few of your healing techniques with me, would you? Ash asked. I'd be happy to, Ash, Melanie smiled. As Ash and Brock went with Melanie into her cabin so she could show them the various types of plants she used for medicine, Serena and Misty were left to their own doings. Serena looked around and noticed how tranquil this place seemed to be and how happy all of the Pokemon were. She then noticed a Pokemon that particularly stuck out to her. Who was eyeing her curiously? It was an Oddish. Serena approached the Pokemon and knelt down to be more eye level with it. Oddish seemed to back away slowly as if it was afraid of her. Serena then realized that this must be the Oddish she had tried to capture. No wonder it didn't appear to want to battle. It was trying to recover in the village. Hi, Oddish, Serena said to it. The Oddish didn't say anything and continued to watch Serena closely, wondering if she was going to do anything. I just wanted to say I was sorry for hurting you earlier. It must have frightened you quite a bit. If I had known the situation I would not have attacked you like that, Serena apologized. Oddish lost its curious glance and moved a little closer to her. It sure is a great place here. I can see why all of the Pokemon seem so relaxed, Serena said as she gestured to all the Pokemon in the village, which the weed Pokemon nodded to. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say, so I hope there are no hard feelings between us, Serena told it. Oddish shook its head and happily jumped into her arms. Ah, you're sweet, Oddish, Serena smiled as she rubbed its head. You two sure seem to be hitting it off, Misty commented as she approached Serena from behind. Serena answered while smiling. It was then that she and Misty heard a growl in front of them. Serena looked up just in time to see a Bulbasaur charging straight at her. She was unable to get out of the way and was knocked over painfully onto her behind, where she dropped Oddish. The Bulbasaur then stood protectively in front of Oddish. Ow, Serena muttered in pain while Ash, Brock, and Melanie ran outside the cabin to see what the commotion was about. Hey! You're that Bulbasaur from earlier. Why do you keep antagonizing us? It sounds like you are asking for a battle. Ash yelled as he pulled out Pidgeotto's Pokeball. Melanie then ran in between Ash and Bulbasaur and spread her arms out while Brock and Misty helped Serena to her feet. Please wait. Melanie cried. Bulbasaur was only trying to protect Oddish. What do you mean? Ash asked. This Bulbasaur has been here a while. It's volunteered to be the protector of this village, Melanie explained. This is a very reliable Bulbasaur. It is always willing to help out any Pokemon in need. Unfortunately, it seems Bulbasaur does too good of a job sometimes. Pokemon feel so safe here because of it that some of them don't go back into the wild. I see, Ash said. He then felt pushing and looked down to see Bulbasaur was pushing against his leg, trying to nudge him out of the village. Despite all of Bulbasaur's great strengths, it is very distrustful of Pokemon trainers, Melanie continued sadly. Then I'm just going to have to earn its trust. Ash told her. I'm sure when Bulbasaur sees that we mean no harm, it will warm up to us. I hope so. In the meantime, would you like to continue where we left off with the medicine? Melanie asked. Yeah, Ash nodded. He then turned to Serena and Misty. You guys should come in as well. I think this stuff will be pretty useful for our journey. The two girls nodded and followed the rest back into the cabin. Bulbasaur even decided to follow, if not to at least keep an eye on the humans. It turned out that the group was learning a lot from Melanie. She had showed them the various types of plants that she uses and what each one does. She even did a few demonstrations of how she turns the plants into medicine for the Pokemon. She then let the group try it out themselves. The group was learning a lot and figured this would be very useful in case there were no Pokemon centers close by and they needed to heal their Pokemon quickly. As Bulbasaur watched the group, it couldn't help but be curious about these humans. They were unlike any trainers it had met before. Melanie had been the only human it trusted for a long time, but maybe these ones weren't so bad, either. The trainer called Ash especially intrigued it. Pikachu seemed to notice Bulbasaur's stare and hopped down from its position on Ash's shoulder to converse with it. Pikachu told Bulbasaur about how it was very distrustful of humans at first, as well. It then talked about the first time it had met Ash, and it shocked him. Bulbasaur was especially surprised when Pikachu told it that Ash wasn't angry at all. Pikachu then went on to tell it what a great trainer Ash was and that it couldn't have asked for a better trainer. Because of him, it was now a lot more accepting of humans. In a way, Pikachu and Bulbasaur were a lot alike. Bulbasaur then looked at Ash again and decided to test out Pikachu's claim. It went over and decided to help Ash by using its vines to hand him different ingredients that he needed while making the medicine. Oh, thank you, Bulbasaur. Ash said gratefully as he accepted the things Bulbasaur was handing him. Bulbasaur smiled as it watched Ash and the rest of the group make the medicine. Once they were done, Melanie asked Bulbasaur if it would like to be the taste tester, to which it happily agreed. It turned out they had done the medicine pretty well. Of course, they weren't as good as Melanie with the exception of Brock, but still perfectly acceptable. Especially if any of their Pokemon were in danger. That was pretty courageous of you to try our medicine for the first time, Bulbasaur. I think it's a really great thing you do for this village with how you always stand up for the Pokemon. You would be a great Pokemon for anyone to have, Ash told it, causing Bulbasaur to smile at his remark. Ash, don't you think Bulbasaur would be a great addition to your team? Melanie asked him. What do you mean? Ash asked curiously. Bulbasaur still has a lot of growing to do. Unfortunately, this village is too small for it to reach its full potential. It definitely needs a trainer who is going to take great care of it. I believe that trainer is you, Ash, Melanie said. But what about this village? Doesn't Bulbasaur have to protect it? Ash asked. Bulbasaur has always done a great job protecting this village, and I will certainly miss it, but this would be what is best for it, Melanie replied. Also, Bulbasaur can't stay in this village forever. If it does, so will the Pokemon, as they will be too comfortable. It's when a Pokemon leaves this village in great condition that is most rewarding to me. Please take Bulbasaur with you. I know you won't regret it. In that case, I would love to have Bulbasaur on my team. Welcome to the group. I'm happy to have a brave Pokemon like you. Ash said happily. Bulbasaur, it said happily back to him before running a short distance away from Ash. He. It seems Bulbasaur would like to battle you first, Melanie said to him. I normally don't like battles in this village, but I will make an exception this time. A few minutes later, everyone was standing outside. Ash and Pikachu stood on one end, and Bulbasaur stood on the other. Serena, Brock, Misty, and Melanie stood off to the side to watch. Pikachu had been the one who decided it wanted to battle Bulbasaur. It wanted to show the Pokémon that it was true to its words about Ash being a great trainer. After about 10 seconds of staring at each other, Ash made his move. Pikachu, use quick attack. Ash called. Pikachu sped up to Bulbasaur and rammed into it, which caused the Pokémon to skid back a few feet. Bulbasaur then brought out its vines to grab Pikachu. It then lifted Pikachu off the ground and began to slam it back down. Ash was quickly reminded of the situation when Serena had her battle against Leaf's Ivysaur and the strategy she used to get out it. Pikachu, use your Thunder Shock on the vines. Ash shouted. Pikachu nodded and used the electric attack. This created a current which traveled along the vines until shocking Bulbasaur. This startled Bulbasaur enough to where it dropped Pikachu, but it wasn't done yet. It then used Razor Leaf on Pikachu and shot a flurry of sharp leaves at it. Use quick attack to get out of the way. Ash called. Pikachu sped out of the way and appeared behind Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur was quick to turn as well, however. It began to shoot another Razor Leaf at Pikachu. Jump into the air and use Iron Tail. Ash said to Pikachu. Pikachu then leaped high into the air above the Razor Leaf as its tail glowed white. It then began to fall to the ground and slammed its tail on top of Bulbasaur. The Pokémon let out a huge groan of pain as the attack hit. Ash knew he would have to take his chance with the Pokeball now before Bulbasaur's special ability, Overgrow, activated. Pokeball, go! He cried as he threw a spare one forward. The ball connected with the Pokémon and sucked it inside. The ball then began to shake back and forth. To Ash's relief, the ball dinged to signal Bulbasaur was successfully captured. All right. We got Bulbasaur. Ash cheered. Pi Pikachu. Pikachu cheered as well as it made a V shape with its fingers. Bulbasaur, I'll miss you, Melanie said sadly. Melanie had allowed the group to spend the night in the hidden village since it was getting late in the day, to which the group was glad to accept. They had spent the rest of the day playing with the Pokémon, and Ash had concocted a small batch of medicine that he had learned from Melanie to heal Bulbasaur after he had battled it. Now, it was the next morning, and the group was ready to leave to set out on their journey once again. Thank you for all you showed us, Melanie. It will definitely be useful on our journey, Ash told her. You're very welcome. I'm just glad I was able to assist even a little with my limited knowledge, Melanie smiled. Bulbasaur, Bulbasaur said a little sadly as it was outside of Ash's Pokeball at the moment. Don't worry about a thing, Bulbasaur. We will just fine here. Thank you for everything you've done, Melanie reassured it. Bulbasaur smiled slightly upon hearing that. Hey, Melanie. Since Bulbasaur won't be around anymore, I would love to stay here and take care of the village with you, Brock said sincerely. That is a very kind offer, Brock, Melanie smiled. Really? Brock asked hopefully. But I wouldn't want to keep you from your dreams. You should continue to follow your goal to be a Pokémon breeder, Melanie finished. Oh yeah. Of course, Brock said, but the group could tell he was disappointed. Well, goodbye, Melanie. Thanks for everything. Ash said as he and the rest of the group waved. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye. Melanie called as she waved back. Oddish was next to Melanie as she waved goodbye to the group and couldn't help but be a little sad as it watched Serena leave. She seemed like a really nice person and had spent all day playing with it yesterday. Oddish. It called as it ran after the group. Oh. Serena questioned once she noticed Oddish caught up to them. It seems Oddish has decided it wants to go with Serena. Brock smiled. Really, Oddish? You want me as your trainer? Serena asked hopefully, to which the Pokemon nodded. I think that's a great idea as well, Melanie commented. I'd love to have you as my Pokemon, Oddish, Serena said gratefully as hugged the weed Pokemon. She then took out a spare Pokeball, and Oddish happily jumped into it to be officially caught. Serena stared at the Pokeball that contained her new friend and smiled. I guess you two just have a way with befriending a lot of Pokemon, Misty smiled. Yeah, I guess so, Ash replied embarrassedly while rubbing the back of his head. What Misty had said was true. Ever since they had started their journey, the majority of the Pokemon they had caught came to them by choice rather than forcefully captured. It was this knowledge that had them comforted that they really had their Pokemon's trust and truly belonged as Pokemon trainers, even though a couple, especially Jigglypuff, could listen a little more. Despite that, their journey was still at the beginning and still had many great things to come.